Get in, nerds. We are explaining Hearts of Iron 4. Today I'm going to talk about armies, how they work, and how to use them. Because we talked about producing equipment before. We talked about using that equipment to turn out divisions, but we haven't talked about how to use divisions to create forces on the map that can automate themselves and use the planning mechanics to generally win wars. So, you're going to have your list of generals down at the bottom here. These are organized into armies and army groups. And if you mouse over them, you can see what army they are, and their default to being called Army 6, Army 7, etc., etc. When you leave yourself mouse over them, you get a sense of what the traits of the general commanding the army are. So, for example, Huntzinger here provides extra attack and defense, a little bit of a reduction in supply consumption, and a big bonus to max planning. A bonus to max planning and a big bonus to planning speed. You can see that for each of these generals. And these are grouped together under a field marshal over here. You can see that because this bar encompasses all of them. These numbers down here are showing you what, how many divisions they're capable of leading versus how many they could lead total. And this general's numbers here are showing you how many armies he's capable of running. So, when you click on the field marshal here, this gives you a list of all of the divisions that are here in the army group. You click on a general, you get a list of all the divisions that are currently in that army. So to walk you through the command card over here, this is the portrait of the general. You can use this button to look at his details. This is his name, number of divisions, and total organization and fighting strength. Over here you can see his skill level and his stats. He's got 5 attack. So Lattre de Tassigny here, General Lattre de Tassigny has 5 attack, 2 defense, 5 strategic, and 3 logistic. And you mouse over those, you can see specifically what they do. So for example, his 5 planning gives you 25% extra planning speed and 10% maximum planning. Planning is a mechanic that we'll talk about in a little bit, but speaking very briefly, when you're using the automated battle system, planning is just a flat bonus to attack and defense. It's very, very good. And over here you've got abilities. Trickster, for example, increases recon, and Guerrilla Fighter increases entrenchment speed. Moving right along here, let's take a look at these icons. First of all, you've got disband selected units. This turns divisions into manpower and equipment. When you disband a division, you'll get this prompt here. The used equipment will be returned to storage, and the units will go to the manpower pool. Any expeditionary forces will be sent home. And this shows you the name of the division and what you're going to get back for disbanding them. And this is all just going to go to your stockpile. Going to go ahead and hit cancel here. The one thing to note about that is that if you've got a unit that's fully surrounded and you disband it, I think you get none equipment and 20% of the manpower back. So don't disband divisions that are surrounded if you can possibly avoid it. Next here, you've got your change division template button. This lets you grab an infantry division, say, and if I want to turn this into a mounted division, I can do that. So, for example, if I say Division Mécanique, if I want to turn this into a medium tank division, and you'll get this prompt here. Are you sure you want to change the division template for this unit? It may take a while for the equipment to arrive, and then it'll say, here's what we need. We need 300 tanks and 160 mechanized. There are none available. They're not available because I'm training a bunch of new mechanized units. And then it'll take 20 trucks, and there are 2,000 available. And we'll gain back a bunch of infantry equipment and towed artillery. So I'm going to hit cancel for that. But basically, because units are completely modular, you can always make changes to them. However, that is going to affect the experience level of the units. If you're equipping units with a type of equipment that they don't have any experience with, for example, changing skilled infantry out for tankers will reduce the experience of the thing, because you can't use those same guys. You got to bring in fresh tankers, and they don't have any experience yet because they haven't been trained yet. So that's going to reduce the experience of the army quite a bit if you're replacing infantry with tankers. If you're replacing cavalry with motorized, that's a lot closer. I think you might even be able to change cavalry to motorized without having a problem, without losing experience, but I haven't double-checked, so don't quote me on that. Next, you've got the strategic redeployment button. This toggles strategic redeploying on and off. This is a way to get troops in place faster, but they lose all their organization while they're moving that way. It is something very useful, but only in selective circumstances. Units that are under strength can be consolidated into single divisions. You need to have 2 units selected, and for them to be both add up to 100% or less of the strength of a division of their type. So, for example, I can't consolidate these because these units are both at full strength. I think if they add up to more than 100% total, it will transfer from one to the other, but that's all. Next, you've got your total weight. This is the number of convoys this is the number of convoys you'll need to supply this division if it's overseas. And this, sorry, not this division, this army if it's overseas. In this case, the army is in France, so it's going to be supplied completely by train from Paris. So I'm not going to need to worry about that. This is select half of the current divisions. So if I select a bunch of divisions, I'm holding shift, by the way, that's how I'm doing this. I've currently got 8 selected, and that shows here. And if you mouse over this, you can see exactly what type of divisions you've got selected. Total manpower and division type. If I click this, it's going to select half of these divisions. I've halt all selected units. They'll stop doing whatever they're currently doing. You can see what they're doing in this icon here, which is the entrenchment icon. This unit's defending. And then finally, unassign all selected units from this army, moves them to the unassigned units area. It doesn't physically move them on the map, it just makes them unassigned. I don't tend to do this almost at all. So, for each individual unit, we got our organization over here, and again, organization is your ability to continue to fight. It's not fighting strength. Most damage is done to organization, but organization comes back over time very quickly. And you can see the hourly recovery right there, and it's going to show you what's causing that. This is the fighting strength, and if you mouse over this, you can see its total HP and how much equipment it's got, and manpower as well. This is the division icon. This is the experience level. These units are regular, which is the highest you can get to without being in combat. Gives you 25% bonus to attack and defense, which is very strong. This, next to this, is the experience bar. You'll notice this is empty for all these units because they haven't fought yet. Conversely, if we go down to this army, some of these units have started to get experience. These ones are 2% up from regular to veteran. And if we go to some of our units that have been fighting a little bit longer, well, not that much longer. It's only been like a week. So these ones are like 5%, just for example. Going back to our army up here. This is the current activity. For example, this unit is fully entrenched. That's all it's doing. And so this is going to show you what its entrenchment is. Max entrenchment is 5, and I'm getting 10 from Trench Warfare, 3.4 from the template, and extra multiplicative bonuses from the Field Marshal in charge of the army, and other stuff. Entrenchment, basically any units that are not doing anything will entrench. They'll accumulate entrenchment over time. Entrenchment provides attack and defense bonus when they're defending. Next here, this is the entrenchment bar. It's just as a visual indicator of how entrenched the unit is. So as these units are fully entrenched, but if I go, say, here, this unit is not entrenched because it's moving. This is the plan preparation bonus. You got the same thing over here. I'm doing a grand battle plan type doctrine, so my maximum planning is very high. And what this does, and again, you can see the breakdown of what's causing the maximum planning to be what it is. What's causing this is, what this does is when you activate the battle plan, which is going to be this button here, and I'll get to that in a second, this bonus is going to apply to attack and defense while the unit is moving forward in the automated battle plan. If you're manually ordering units, it's going to be a little bit less. I think it might be half or 67% or something. It's still partially present, but it's not as present, I think. Finally, you have the name of the division. This is the 10th Infantry Division. And then finally, you've got the army icon. And if I want to change the army color or icon, I can do that here. So if I want to make it Second Armée, I can do it there. Here's Force Française Libre. Here's the First Armée. We don't have a French Foreign Legion logo, which I'm a little surprised by, but it is what it is. Alright, so that's the basics of the infantry command card. Here's how we form armies. So if I want to grab 3 units from this army and put it in another army, I can just hit, I can just right-click, or I think left-click on the new army button here. And that's going to form a new army out of just these 3 units. So you'll notice, actually, that this, I should have pointed this out beforehand. Let's put these guys back in here. You notice this says 24 divs. That's 24 divisions on this battle plan. If I click over here, now they're not on that battle plan anymore. That's only 21 divisions because the battle plan is allocated at an army level. I can assign a commander to this army over here by clicking this button. This takes me to my list of commanders. You'll see this hashing on any commander who's already assigned, and it looks like virtually all of my commanders are assigned. If I need new commanders, I can hit the Show Field Commanders button and promote a commander from one of my divisions. If I have enough experience, I'm going to get some bonuses. If not, I'll just get kind of a basic guy. But this is the core mechanics. So the best way to get good new division commanders is to take them from experienced divisions. And you can see their experience over here, what type of division they're leading, and the experience level of the division. And if I hit promote, if I mouse over the promote button, it'll show me what's what and what'll come of that. It costs a lot of command power to be promoting leaders, so you gotta be conscientious about that. So suppose I wanted to reassign one of my others. Let's see. Say Henry Friedenberg. I don't think you're doing much over here in Western Africa, so I'm gonna go ahead and assign him from this list here, Friedenberg. This will reassign the commander, and you'll notice that his portrait is grayed out because he's going to take some time moving up from Africa, specifically 15 days before he'll be ready to command this army. So, now that I've got this army assigned, it's time to set up a battle plan. Here are the battle plans we've got available, and above here these are special abilities. We'll go over those in a second. So first of all, we got exercise. You can have, just like air wings, you can have armies exercise. This costs fuel if they're an army that's, if they're divisions that are fuel reliant, but it will give them army experience up until the point where they're regular without having them actually be in combat. This changes the battle plan execution type, so you can go carefully, balanced, or aggressively. Aggressive is not recommended, or rather, I don't recommend aggressive. And then over here you've got your cohesion type. I don't know exactly what these, let's see here. The battle plans carried out units will not attack heavily fortified locations unless they're unmanned, and they avoid attacking provinces which will weaken the front line by making it longer. This is balanced, standard for carrying out battles. And then aggressive, units will attack provinces if they are part of the plan, even if that may mean that the front line becomes longer or may put units in exposed locations. So this button here will make units attack areas that are undefended basically as soon as and whenever they can. It'll even create these long, terrible, sneaky fronts, so you gotta be conscientious of that. Flexible cohesion involves sort of how divisions redeploy along the front line. Flexible means they can redeploy anywhere. Balanced means they can only redeploy close by, and rigid means they can only redeploy adjacently. So, like, for example, if the enemy breaks through here, and these 3 divisions wind up here in this province in Picardy, with no divisions here, if I'm set to rigid, only these divisions will redeploy to Reims to defend it. So, that's kind of down to personal preference. Next, and these are toggles. You turn them between their different settings, but these are the actual battle plans. So first of all, you got your naval invasion order. Right now it's highlighting all ports as starting point. You left-click a port as a starting point, and then you can right-click any coastal area. So for example, if I wanted to plan to invade Dover here, I would right-click there. And then... Oh, I'm selecting a different army right now. I'm like, why am I... That's curious. I meant to be selecting these guys. I'm going to show you something really important with naval invasions. This trips up a lot of people. So I'm going to left-click on Dunkirk and right-click on Dover. Now I've got 1 division set up. I need to click the naval invasion order again twice if I want to set up a new naval invasion order. or it's not going to work. So I clicked off, and I clicked on again, and now I've selected a new division. I'm going to say starting at Dunkirk, and you're going to go to this one here in East Anglia. I think that's East Anglia. And then finally, I'm going to click this again, send another naval invasion to the port in... Send another naval invasion to the point in Norwich. Oh, I turned off one of my earlier invasions. Whoopsie doodle. Let's try that again. So now we got 3 invasions set up here. Just going to go ahead and cancel these. This is the the delete orders button. You can just use it to get rid of orders. If you haven't done anything, there's nothing lost there. This is the floating harbor naval invasion order. It works exactly the same as the naval invasion order, but it brings a floating harbor with it to supply the unit if you're going to a place that doesn't have a port. That is very, very important in dicier naval invasions, to bring a harbor with you. 2 harbors were used historically in the landings in Normandy during the actual Second World War. One of them got pretty much completely wrecked, but the other one was invaluable. You cannot supply 2 railways with a floating harbor, I don't think, but so if I landed a floating harbor here in Cherbourg, next to Cherbourg, where there's a railway, if I got troops near to Paris, I wouldn't be able to supply them through the floating harbor. If I landed troops, say, here, and then took over these territories, I wouldn't be able to supply a supply hub through here, but I would be able to supply units in this hex itself. So, this is paradrop orders. I don't have any paratroops, so I'm not going to show you how to do this, but it's pretty similar to a naval invasion, except you do it over territory, and you can drop anywhere because you're in planes. This is the frontline order. This is what you're going to use for the majority of your ordering units around. You got a lot of different options for this. One, you can use the right click to click and drag and draw a front line. You notice this army is 3 divisions, so it's going to show a green hashing here for when it's alright, but if I go to 4 or more provinces, it's going to show a yellow hashing, and that's the game telling you, like, hey, you're not deploying enough divisions to this area to cover the area you want to cover. When I release the right click there, now we've got an order here, and these units no longer have the exclamation mark for no order assigned. So if I delete that, now they got this little red exclamation mark here. You need to have a frontline order in order to assign an offensive battle plan, which is the next button here. This is an offensive line. Basically, you're going to use an offensive line by drawing it in the country that you're attacking, parallel to the front line, and that's what will cause your units to move into the country and attack it. So, for example, if I draw a front line here in Switzerland, that will cause these units, if they're ordered, if I press the go button here, that'll cause these units to perform this battle plan if I am at war with the country. Another version of the offensive line here is the spearhead. This is a much more aggressive, direct thing. The units, this is very appropriate for armored units that are meant to thrust forward, while infantry units guard their flanks. This causes the units to just kind of shove forward into whatever's there. It is much more aggressive and attack-oriented, but it is also generally faster. And it's faster and less safe. Those are your 3 big common orders. Other orders are garrison, or area defense, it's called now. It used to be you needed to do this in order to suppress resistance in areas. Now there's a whole interface for that under occupied countries. This video is getting really long for explainer, but I got to get through all this. You can turn states on and off for this. As you can see, I'm doing that right now. And then it'll show you how many divisions you need to do the minimum for what you've selected. You can have it guard victory points, naval bases, coastal terrain, air bases, forts, and railway and supply hubs. I generally have them just guard naval bases and victory points, and that generally covers a lot of what I need to cover. The AI is very dumb about doing naval invasions, and it will generally invade next to a port with only 1 or 2 units, and then if you do that, you can destroy the units on land, and they'll just be captured, and you'll be able to destroy them. So it's because they'll be unsupplied, and it's generally a very bad technique. So that's why I tend to guard naval bases, but let the enemy land on coast if they want to. This is the fallback line order. Sorry, I should get into more specifics about the frontline order. I will in a second, but let me go through the others first. You can right-click and drag for a fallback line. What this will do is that'll cause the units to deploy to that line. You can use it if, for example, I push forward in the Rhineland here against Germany, and then Germany wins its battle against Poland and brings 120 divisions over here. I can set my fallback line to the Maginot Line and have my units fall back in good order to that location, which is very useful. I think units that are falling back don't lose organization due to battle at nearly so high a rate, which I think is why it's good. After that, you've got division, assignment mode and unassigned divisions. I don't tend to use that and tend to use the mouse commands for that. With respect to existing orders, you can control right-click to select all units assigned to the order. So I can just click that to get General de Tassigny's army. And I can use, if I've got these 3 divisions selected, I can control and left-click to assign them back into General de Tassigny's army without causing an issue. Let's talk a little bit more about front lines, because there's a few special commands you can use for them. Number 1, if you just right-click a border, it will assign the front line to the entire border. That can be useful under certain circumstances. If you've got a front line drawn already, you can hit the front line button and you can grab these little round things at the end to extend or shorten the line. This can be very useful for various functions. When reassigning a frontline order, the game will just kind of do it as fast as it can, which can lead to gaps if you're not being careful. So use this on active war zones at your own risk. But if you've got 2 armies that are stacked up on one front line, you're going to want them to spread out and each cover separate regions. I tend to change one, and when it's fully changed, I'll change the other to the remaining area, and that makes sure there's no problems in coverage. Finally, you have your special abilities up at the top here. These are mostly done at the army level, but some of them are done at the army group level. Staff Office Plan is a very common one. It just provides a huge, huge bonus to planning speed. If you're going to be doing planning from a sudden war or an order that you didn't know you were going to need to do, you can shell out some command power to make the planning go faster. This is a very useful ability. It lasts for 7 days. This is Force Attack and Last Stand. These are 2 very common abilities. Basically what they do is they cut all organization damage dealt to your units, but they cause 60% of it to be done in strength damage instead. This is very bad for your units overall, but it gives you some giant bonuses. 20% to offense, 25% to breakthrough, and over here 20% to defense and 25% to entrenchment. You get war support reduction from an increased war support reduction from damage, and more importantly, you cannot retreat. Basically, this means these units will be, as long as you're keeping the ability active, these units will be destroyed rather than retreat. This can be very useful for particular circumstances. It is highly likely to completely annihilate the units that are doing it. So just be aware of that. And then over here you got another slot. This actually is modular. You can have as many slots as you've got abilities unlocked. Because there are a few other abilities. You can do things like glider planes for paratrooper specialists. You can do improvised bridges for guys that are good at that kind of thing. You can do probing attacks, which allow you... So improvised bridges give you extra movement over water, movement and attack. Glider planes give you extra organization when you do a paradrop landing. Probing attacks let you do a weaker attack but without losing your entrenchment, which is pretty nice. A couple of other abilities. There's like a siege artillery one that negates or that reduces enemy fortress bonuses for fortifications. So there are a lot of different options there. Speaking of options, let's talk a little bit about leaders. I'm going to grab that general that I just unassigned and reassign him. Where is he? Friedenberg. Over here. I'm going to reassign him down here, and let's talk about leader roles. So like I mentioned, you got your 4 abilities: attack, defense, planning, and logistics. And then you've got background and traits. So for example, this guy's got the Old Guard background. It reduces his experience gain, but increases maximum entrenchment. He's also got the infantry officer background, which increases infantry leader experience factor by 100%. So that means he is much more likely, or he'll earn this trait much faster in combat. When your guys are in combat, they're going to slowly accumulate experience into this bar, and they're also going to slowly accumulate abilities. So I'm going to click one of my generals who's been in a little bit of combat here, and I'll show you kind of what's going on with that. So Philippe Leclerc has 17% experience, and if I mouse over him here, he doesn't have any progress towards an ability. Well, that's a shame. Oh, I think because he wasn't assigned yet. What about you? What about you, Henri Giraud? Do you have experience towards an ability yet? Where is it? Maybe I'm just not remembering how to get it. But anyway, as you accumulate combat experience, you can get experience towards abilities. These earned traits here. The more experience you get, the faster you can acquire these earned traits. And these depend on what you're doing. So, for example, you're going to get Organizer by doing battle plans by... Oh, this is by doing any battle plans. That's interesting. I thought you only got doing that one for ones that are not finished yet. Panzer Leader you get by running an army that's got at least 40% tanks. Cavalry you get while leading an army that's at least 40% cavalry, motorized, and mechanized. Engineer you get while crossing rivers and attacking forts. Infantry Leader you get while leading an army that's 80% or more infantry. Naval Invader you get while leading naval invasions. Oh, so you can also see the experience here by mousing over the different abilities. That's how you can... I know there's a faster way to do it, but that's another way to do it. So you notice this guy is leading a pretty much completely infantry army here. This little helmet means infantry. So he's got 23 out of 1,000 experience for leading infantry units. You can see what the ability does. In this case, a big infantry defense bonus. And then these are the abilities that come off of it. Commando, you get a bunch of different options. You get it while it's really hot or really cold. You get it while you're paradropping or doing a naval invasion. And this unlocks a bunch of abilities that are useful for specialists. Finally, the Skilled Staffer is a... controlling at least 24 armies. That's got to be divisions. That's got to be divisions. There's no way it means armies. It's got to be divisions. That's curious. Anyway, so these abilities unlock automatically, and then once you've got them, you can spend 15 command power to unlock one of these abilities. This, same as in the National Focus Tree, this little green icon means these abilities are mutually exclusive. So between Panzer Leader, Combined Arms Expert, and Cavalry Expert, you can only get one. Cavalry Leader, you'll notice, also increases attack for motorized and mechanized. So if you want to do a motorized mechanized focus, you do Cavalry Leader, and then you do Combined Arms Expert, and that's very good overall. Infantry Leader gets your Infantry Defense. Infantry Expert gets you an Infantry Attack bonus, so if you want to build a guy who's really good with infantry, those are the two you use. Etc., etc. I think... Actually, no, I am going to go through what these do. Do I have time for that? Maybe that'll be a separate video, because we're actually almost at 30 minutes already. All of these traits apply at the general level, the earned traits and the general traits. These, and you'll notice it's giving me red text here. He's already got the maximum assignable number of traits, and all parent traits must be unlocked in order to assign this trait. Basically, he's level 3, so he can only have so many traits. But he's only got 2, so maybe it's... Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it displays one versus the other here. But suffice to say, he hasn't gotten any of these yet, so he hasn't unlocked the ability to get any of the general traits. Field Marshal traits are only applicable to Field Marshals. If you're a Field Marshal and you have general traits, I think they apply, like, I think it might be half, but I'm not sure, to all your units. Field Marshal traits are all generally available from Jump, but they rely on having certain traits. Just as one example, Maxime Weygand here has the Defensive Doctrine ability and the Unyielding Defender ability. These are ones that he started with. Normally, in order to get this, you need to have a personal trait called Inflexible Strategist, which he does have. to get Aggressive Assaulter, you need one called Brilliant Strategist, and then the Doctrine you can get to pick. You can also pick Organization First or Charismatic for Reinforce Rate and Recovery Rate, which are both pretty good. And if you've got Organizer, you can get a Plannering Booster, Thorough Planner, or Fast Planner, or you can get Logistics Wizard, which is also super duper good. The extra supplies, reducing supply consumption by 15% is ludicrously strong, and the extra supplies ability is crazy expensive from a command point power perspective, but it also fully supplies units for 7 days, which is really, really powerful. There's a reason this ability is called Wizard. It's the only magic thing you can do in the game. Logistics Wizard is really good. Finally, over here you got your terrain traits, and these are just acquired for fighting in certain types of terrain. When you've got at least one of them, you can grab the Adaptable trait. Adaptable unlocks, I think, Improvisation Expert. If you've got Adaptable and Trickster already, you can get Improvisation Expert, and that's what unlocks Makeshift Bridges. It also gives you a 10% speed bonus to all your divisions, which is super duper good. And then finally, you got an upgraded version of the Winter one for your really brutal winter situations. I am going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of what these abilities do in a future explainer, and then I'll talk about the core roles in a little bit. But anyway, that's how you deal with armies, orders, and to a certain extent, officers. I've had fun. I hope you all have had fun, and I'll see you on the other side.